Oh. I'm gonna move my. I don't like my looking up all the time. I think I'm gonna move my chats and everything down here. I need to redo my layout. Hold on. How's life? What's this?
Okay, and they demand your Israel, people call you an anti-Semite for hours and hours and days, okay? And they demand your deplatforming. You go on The View and you're like, Iranians are doing ISIS-style assassination attempts on homosexuals. And everyone's like, well, that's true, but... No, it ain't true. What the f*** do you mean? It's like 7 seconds in. Are you kidding me? They say this about every Muslim country, dude. What the f***? Every Muslim country. In Gaza, they throw the babies off the roof when they find out the baby is gay. Yeah, that's what they're doing. That's crazy. It feels like they're doing it in every Muslim country. It almost feels like you're just racist, dude.
I wish that like he would just pick a struggle. Like, do you want to be an ML? Do you want to do the Marxist-Leninist shit and be a tanky? Then fine. But then don't jump over to this idpol shit whenever it's convenient. It's so cringe. Like, choose one. If you want to be idpol obsessed and only do like your identity politics and call everybody, you know, racist and Islamophobic, then fine. Or do the hate America anti-Western shit and do your ML struggle. But it's so gross how he dons whatever cloak he needs for whatever he wants to cry about. Ugh. Do you think Ethan is doing the lawsuit more so because he genuinely cares about the copyright infringement rather than him disliking the viewpoints of Dennis and Frogan? Doesn't this set a bad precedent for other types of React content? What is the bad precedent? That people are going to be afraid to completely and wholly steal content from people who they fucking hate and want to slander and attack us? I mean, like, I don't know what the bad precedent there would be, but okay. Sorry, that was unnecessary. I mean, should we be cheering on those types of lawsuits? Yeah, more people in the streamer world need to get fucked with lawsuits, okay? Fuck these people. People are making too much money to be as fucking retarded as they are out here, so fuck them. Why does everyone who goes away from you always go so opposite? I don't know, bro. Just don't fucking ask me. Bro, that like and tweet. What? Let's take this one at a time. Arresting violent criminals improves security. True. Arresting low-level criminals, like someone who would break into a car and steal something, does not. Those types of arrests actively harm communities. What? What? You gonna watch the new Piers Morgan episode with Constantine versus Dave Smith? Yes, I'm gonna watch it so fast. I went back into the past and watched it yesterday. There you go. For people's broken record. People's political views influence how they view every single thing related to a person so much, or their personal relationship with somebody. Like watching Gisticle and Queeman contort themselves into knots to try to defend iDubbbz and shit on Ethan just because they know that like I'm on Ethan's side. It was just fucking insane. And then watching, I think I've seen Aaron and Lyca now are like trying to argue that Denims and Frogan, all of them did nothing wrong, but it's just because of their position on the Israel-Palestine stuff. And it's like, Jesus, okay. Which one is selected? Monitor 2? What did you make of Peace Coast criticism while you were watching? I didn't see which ones. What was he making? I don't have time to watch too much. I was busy. I'm autistic. You're saying people defend people based on their political biases, i.e., someone like Hasan, Fergan, etc., will have a. I'm saying that, like, if you agree with somebody or disagree with somebody on, like, some personal or some policy thing, like, they'll defend every single. They feel like they have to go to the extreme and defend every single thing that person does. It just seems like really wacky to me. Like, if Denham's stabbed somebody, it'd be like, well, you know, she's. I don't know. It just feels like people would defend him if they share the political view or something. I don't know, it just feels wacky to me. Whatever. I don't need this. Okay, this, and then 1, 2. Okay, edit. Hold on. Can you check my last message, please? It better be a good one, and you're not just wasting my time checking some meme shit, or you're about to get a big ban. Can we watch the 50-minute video, The Brutal Story of the Gay Hamas Commander?
Hello, my Kubian apes. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been on your way to the local Queers for Palestine protest when suddenly a Zionist falls out of the sky and says, actually, Hamas would have you executed for being gay? Many such cases. Well, after this video, you'll be able to tell him that actually Hamas had a gay command.
Everyone is asking why he isn't suing XQC, but XQC didn't even watch the whole video. I don't know if XQC is, like, acting malicious. Like, bro, you're throwing out the most malicious statements ever. When you're saying shit like, watch me so they don't get any revenue, like, that is the most malicious shit you could ever say. I think they should be sued on principle. Just the idea that you feel, I think there is a huge issue. Like, in a straight, we're defending Denims in Peace Coast chat earlier. I don't know, bro. There's a huge issue with people on Twitch, especially people on the left, feel way too safe to operate with impunity, doing the most, like, abhorrent shit. Like, they feel invincible, and I think that's wild. You should have some shame or something if you're doing some unhinged, crazy stuff. But the people feel like they can do just literally whatever the fuck they want. Even if it's like harassment or doxing or illegal or stealing or whatever. I don't know. I just think it's fucking wild. Okay. I feel like I'm trying to deprive them of money doesn't matter. If you show the work in its entirety, the market substitute. They hadn't done this. They stopped for 2 hours. This is a troll. I'm not going to be impacted. It's bad empanada. I bet he's here working upstairs. That's it. I'm not going to be impacted. It's fine. They're trolling me. It's good and it's funny. You know what? Mad props. It's a troll. Do you think if Ethan wins, it will set a precedent against what these streamers have been doing to Ethan for the past few years? No, I mean, harassing and bullying is still legal. None of that is illegal. The issue is, it's just to be so blatant on your copyright theft as to state malicious intent, meaning the worst thing you could possibly do. And remember, like, at the end of the day, IP law exists fundamentally to protect copyright holders' ability to make money. That's, at the end of the day, that's really the only point. And so when you are literally stating verbatim that your goal is to deprive the copyright holder of money, you are engaging in the most malicious form of whatever content theft possible, or you're stating that's your intent to. And then obviously if you fail all the factors afterwards, it's even worse, but yeah. You would reconcile how you use the Boad Paulson definition of insurrection for J6, but not for the No Kings riot, despite them being more representative of it, or just more cringe cope laugh? The reason why I laughed is because the No Kings, I don't know why you're saying No Kings riots. The No Kings protests were happening across the entirety of the United States. I'm not aware of them trying to directly block or damage the federal government's ability to do anything. You're late to the argument. I already said that in LA, I think it's possible that you can make insurrection arguments for people that were directly trying to riot against or attack ICE. But the entire No Kings protest, the 10 to 13 million people that were protesting against the across the entire United States, is clearly not an insurrection. It's fucking retarded. Like, you're brain broken in so many different ways. If you think that you have a point there, but okay, I need to update this a little bit, so we'll watch this while I do this.
And there. Okay, in all seriousness, today we're going to be talking about the insane and brutal story of Mahmoud Ishtiwi, the gay Hamas commander. In it, I hope to get you acquainted with the shadowy inner politics of Hamas and introduce you to some of the key Hamas figures, beyond what you might hear about in the headlines.
Wow.
And slight disclaimer, due to this video's very dark subject matter, I'll probably be making less jokes than usual.
Okay.
Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get started.
Thank you.
Now, first off, let's get acquainted with our main character. Mahmoud Ishtiwi was born in 1982 in the Gaza Strip.
Wow.
Now, Hamas, the extremist Islamist organization that rules the Gaza Strip, is extremely nepotistic. Power tends to be concentrated in a few families, and Mahmoud's family, the Ishtiwis, were seen almost as Hamas royalty. Perhaps because of that, when Mahmoud joined the Al-Qassam Brigades, the military wing of Hamas, at the age of 19, he quickly rose through the ranks. Eventually, he became the commander of the Zaytun Battalion, one of, if not the most powerful fighting forces in the Al-Qassam Brigades. Now, life seemed to be going pretty well for Ishtiwi. He was married to 2 wives and had 3 children, who all lived in luxury. His rank was equivalent to brigadier general, and his troops performed exceedingly well during the 2014 Gaza war. But there was one problem. He was gay.
Whoa!
Ishtiwi had,
I didn't
during
even
the
do
course of his career, maintained many relationships with various men in Gaza. Now, it's very likely that many officials within Hamas were aware of Ishtiwi's habits. But due to his extreme usefulness to the group, most of them were willing to look the other way as long as he continued to be a beneficial asset.
Based.
Perhaps because of this, Ishtiwi came under the false impression that they didn't care about his habits at all, and he began making less of an effort to hide them. But everything changed when a new leader arose in Gaza, one far more brutal and fundamentalist than any who came before him. Yahya Sinwar had felt that Hamas had lost its way. To understand why, we need to go back a bit.
He picked the most egregious cases. He could sue more critics if he wanted, but the rest, more than likely, won't be so easy. Also, you want to pick easier cases. Like, you don't want to go to court for a ton of stuff. Like, you usually would pick the strongest cases. The real question I have, or I guess a question I would have, is I'm surprised that... Fuck, actually, wait, where are my legal people? Can you elect a class status on the defense side? Like, if 5 people are being sued for the same thing, could those 5 people theoretically come together and say, we elect to be treated, to have this treated as like a class or something like that, or no? Is that only on the plaintiff side? I don't know. That's one thing. The second thing I kind of was curious about was, it's interesting that all 3 of these people didn't come together to make like a joint GoFundMe to fund their legal stuff, but rather all 3 of them I think are fundraising separately, and I think Denham's got hers up first. That's kind of funny, like, because these guys are now in going to be in direct competition with each other. Washed up old YouTubers. Oh my God, Hasan's age is killing him. That's crazy too, because we're men. We age with grace, right? Like, getting older as a guy is supposed to be a good thing. That's crazy that he's so insecure about his age. $69, baby. Woohoo! Okay. Do the other two have GoFundMe's up yet? Frogan and Casey Tron?
Yahya Ibrahim Hasan Sinwar was one of the earliest members of Hamas. He actually started his career running a...
Do you think Hasan will fundraise for them or slink into the background like he did for iDubbbz? If I had to guess, my guess is going to be that Hasan is going to keep his distance from this. Like, he might mention it on stream a few times, but I don't think he'll get involved too directly. I feel like Hasan has been taking a lot of kind of bad hits lately, and it's hard to see, but he just had like a huge push, like probably his biggest PR push ever with this new little agency he hired that went around doing 20 soft pieces for him recently. And I think he was expecting to get a ton of good publicity and a ton of good stuff from that. But like, the environment right now, I think, has been kind of difficult for him because he's been getting a lot of heat for all the terrorist-related shit. Asmongold's community is thriving on Twitch now, and XQC is bending in that direction as well. And both those communities fucking hate Hasan. So he's been taking a lot of hits there. It's not like the iDubbbz stuff didn't really do much. Now all three of his orbiters are getting lawsuit nuked. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like life is a little tough for him right now. Ethan and Dan both seem very confident that this is like bankruptcy levels of outcome for these three creators. If you had to bet what's the most likely outcome, that it would be bankruptcy level? No, I don't think so. I think the statutory damages are capped unless they get hit with huge punitive stuff, which I doubt would happen. Remember, very few lawsuits in the complaint stage even make it to trial. It's like less than 2% or something, I think. Yeah, I mean, it really depends, I guess, on what Ethan's goal is, but... Since Asmon is growing in popularity and lefties are getting trashed, do you ever see Twitch making a rightward shift? Like the actual corporate culture? I'm not sure. Twitch as a whole, viewer base-wise, probably already has, if I had to guess. I seriously doubt like the WL community are bastions of like far left or like socially liberal progressive stuff. Just because of the demographics and everything. And then the Asmongold XQC stuff, these guys are like huge on Twitch. Asmongold is massive, right? And he's super right-wing. And then Twitch demographically already leans kind of like young male. So that's already gonna lean in a certain direction. Like, it's just not, yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you would have, I don't know if you would have pegged Twitch right now, like the average viewer, where they're at politically, I feel like this is not in the left direction.
Hasan Sinwar was one of the earliest members of Hamas. He actually started his career...
Can you have your income garnished after a statutory ruling if you can't afford it? Like, could we see Frogan again potentially having to provide a portion of streaming income to Ethan and a payout they can't afford for a few months or years? Potentially, yeah, because you can get a judgment from the court, I think, right? Which would garnish wages.
Ibrahim Hasan Sinwar was one of the earliest members of Hamas. He actually started his career running a small organization dedicated to weeding out immorality, in particular homosexuality. Sinwar had an obsession with purity, and his game would often burn down video shops that he saw as too scandalous. After joining Hamas, his organization morphed into what became known as Majd. Majd was especially dedicated to hunting down Palestinians who had collaborated with Israel. It would become the Hamas secret police. Now, Sinwar quickly understood that the best way to get people to not collaborate with Israel was by getting the people to fear you. And the best way to get a population to fear you was through public acts of extraordinary violence towards collaborators. Sinwar got Ahmed Yassin, the quadriplegic blind imam who was the supreme leader of Hamas at the time, to issue a fatwa, essentially an Islamic legal degree, that gave Sinwar religious permission to kill anyone he suspected of collaborating with Israel in any way he saw fit. Sinwar immediately got to work. Whenever he found a suspected collaborator, he would kill them brutally, often himself. In one case, he strangled one of them to death while interrogating him. In another case, when a man finally confessed to collaborating, Sinwar said that he wasn't going to
How
kill
do you strangle somebody to death while interrogating them? Answer the question. I can't hear you. Say something. Like, what? Hello?
the man. The man was happy for about 2 seconds until Sinwar had the guards bring in the man's brother and force the man to bury his own brother alive. He would often brag about that particular incident. Palestinians started calling Sinwar the Butcher of Khan Yunis and the Man of 12, in reference to the 12 Palestinians he had personally killed. Even the other Hamas leaders were terrified of him. So, I hope we can all agree that Sinwar was a pretty bad person. I mean, hell, his name is literally Sinwar. It's like you asked J.K. Rowling to name a terrorist. But his killing spree came to an end in 1989 when he was arrested by Israel and sentenced to 4 life sentences. In prison, Sinwar was the opposite of a model prisoner and tried to escape over 6 times. He continued having an influential role in Hamas through the use of contraband cell phones that were smuggled into the prison in pretty crazy ways. Sinwar would attempt to have the phones smuggled inside the prison inside of women's underwear or even inside of people's bodies. That second method is actually quite popular. 4 years ago, Israel found a Palestinian attempting to enter a prison with 11 cell phones and 19 SIM cards inside of his lower abdomen.
Excuse me?
Attempting to enter a prison.
What? Like, is that like up your ass, or do they actually do they like cut like something into their stomach and then hide stuff in like under their skin?
With 11 cell phones and 19 SIM cards inside of his lower abdomen. Yet Sinwar's luck seemed to run out when he was diagnosed with brain cancer. Doctors estimated that the tumor would kill him within the year, yet for some reason Israeli authorities decided to save Sinwar's life. Israeli doctors tirelessly worked to remove the cancer. After the tumor had finally been removed, Sinwar's main doctor, Yuval Biton, asked him...
Was it really... I know that he had an operation, I thought, when he was in Israeli prison. It was really brain cancer? Jesus Christ, Israel. What the fuck?
Sinwar if having his life saved by Israel had changed his views on the conflict. Sinwar simply responded that his goals remained the same, the total expulsion of all Jews from Palestine. Biton's nephew would later be murdered on Sinwar's orders during the October 7th attacks. But Sinwar seemed to regain his luck in 2011, when Israel agreed to the Shalit deal. The deal stated that Israel would release over 1,000 Hamas prisoners, including many leaders, in exchange for a single Israeli soldier who had been captured by Hamas. Sinwar was one of the men slated to be released. Now, you'd probably expect Sinwar to be happy about this. After all, the deal was lopsidedly in favor of the Palestinians. Yet Sinwar was furious. He didn't want a deal unless every single Palestinian prisoner was released. He instead wanted Hamas to continue efforts to try and kidnap Israelis in order to free all prisoners. When Biton asked him if he would be willing to kill 10,000 innocent civilians in order to free 100 prisoners, Sinwar told him that he would be willing to kill 100,000. Yet, despite Sinwar's protests, Deputy Hamas leader Salah al-Aruri, who was assassinated at the beginning of this year, agreed to the deal. And after 22 years in Israeli prisons, Sinwar was finally released back to Gaza. When he got back, he returned to a Hamas that had changed completely. I'm just imagining that it went something like this. Ah, Gaza. It's good to be back. Can't wait to cool off at the beach, maybe buy myself a new jacket at the Hitler 2 clothing store, and... Oh my god, Sinwar, you're finally back. You totally slayed those collaborators. Yeah, we're gonna need a purge. Sinwar came back to a Gaza that he felt had gone soft, and there was no bigger example of that to him than Mahmoud Ishtui. Ishtui's gay antics may have been ignored by other Hamas leaders, but Sinwar wasn't about to let that stuff fly. And sure enough, it was only so long before Ishtui was arrested on Sinwar's orders. At first, Ishtui was accused of embezzlement, and they claimed that he had taken Hamas money for himself. But they then claimed that he had used that stolen money to coerce various men in Gaza to engage in sexual relations with him. And they even got Ishtui's neighbor to confess to having sex with him. Through the use of advanced AI algorithms, I was actually able to recreate the interrogation sessions with Sinwar and Ishtui. Here you go.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay. You are a transgender.
What shows that I'm gay?
You are a transgender.
Now, the accusations already looked really, really bad for...
Okay, this guy's quite the memer. I'm sorry, this meme is so stupid, but
If I snap my fingers, you'll forget that you were ever gay.
I was never gay.
Exactly.
Wait, no, stop.
Yes.
No, stop. You can't. I was never gay.
Okay.
No, I was never gay.
Sure.
You can't just state something, then snap your fingers and then be like, I was never gay.
If you say so.
For Ishtui, but many Hamas leaders had an idea. You see, many Hamas commanders had made pretty big mistakes.
Destiny is my biggest hear me out character, low key. Hear me out. I don't even understand. Okay.
During the 2014 Gaza war, the biggest of which was when the location of the Hamas military chief, Mohammed Daif, was leaked and his house was bombed by Israel. His whole family was killed and Daif was severely injured. Now, it's very likely that the bombing of the house was just a result of good Israeli signals intelligence, but Daif was fully convinced that there was a traitor inside of Hamas who had been sabotaging
Uh-oh. Got it.
Hamas operations for years. Daif desperately wanted someone to blame for the deaths of his family. Now, every Hamas commander who had somehow messed up in the war knew that they might one day be accused by Daif of being the traitor. But they now had a solution. Ishtui was a dead man walking. Sinwar would make sure of that. But multiple Hamas commanders realized that if they could pin all of their failures on Ishtui and then kill him, like some sort of Hamas Jesus, Daif would assume that Ishtui had been the traitor the whole time and they would no longer have to worry about being accused of being the traitor. So the moment word got out about Ishtui's arrest, multiple Hamas commanders came forward to Sinwar and accused Ishtui of some frankly ridiculous stuff. Here are just a few accusations. According to the allegations, Ishtui had sexual relations with over 50 men in Gaza. In order to generate hush money to keep it a secret, he turned to an interesting strategy that I call the Sneako grind set. He would bring his wife to parties with high-ranking Hamas members and have them pay him to sleep with her.
Jesus.
In addition to that, he was accused of collaborating with Israel over the length of many years. According to the allegations, he had been the one who had given Israel Daif's location in 2014. He was also accused of mass embezzlement and of running an illegal weapon market in Gaza. He was essentially accused of every single crime under the sun. Hell, they probably claimed that he shot Harambe. The charges seemed pretty damning. All they needed now was a confession. And that is where the torture began. In the maze of labyrinthine tunnels under the Gaza Strip, Ishtui was subjected to some of the most brutal tortures imaginable. We know about what happened to him mainly through letters that he would smuggle out, which would find their way to Human Rights Watch. I link the Human Rights Watch report on Ishtui in the description if you feel like reading it, but I warn, it's really not for the faint of heart. In the notes, Ishtui wrote, "Often 4 men would stand around me while I was suspended in the air and would swing me right and left, forward and backwards, for hours. I was tied for an average of no less than 20 hours and sometimes more than 24 hours. I received hundreds of lashes. I was beaten, tied, stripped of my skin, humiliated, spat on, and had a bag placed over my head, and all this without them having a shred of evidence."
Did you read the Ethan lawsuit complaints, by the way? I read through the Denims one and was surprised that a lot of it revolved around Hasan, despite him not being an actual party. And if you read it, was wondering if you had thoughts about it. I haven't read through the complaint now, but the complaints are like 80 plus pages long. Those are some long complaints. They seem pretty memey, but...
After every torture session, he would be asked to confess. He had 2 main interrogators. He said that Sinwar was the good cop, and that Sinwar's brother Mohammed was the bad cop. And the fact that Mohammed makes Yahya Sinwar look good by comparison really tells you everything you need to know about him.
How do you square away our intelligence agencies saying Iran was not seeking a nuke? Obviously, you believe Israel's intel over ours, right? I don't know if I would believe Israel's intel over ours. I'm not even sure if Israel's intelligence is saying that Iran was like building a nuke. I think the idea, the concern is over the level of uranium enrichment. Everything else is just word games and red herrings. Like, I think Tulsi Gabbard said that she didn't believe they'd restarted the nuclear program from 2003, which I don't know why. Is that the only nuclear program they start? And then whether or not they're building a bomb or not. But the building the bomb part is trivial. I think the big part is the huge levels of enriched uranium that they have.
As bad as Yahya Sinwar was, his brother was a true psychopath and sadist. To get an idea of just how bad Mohammed Sinwar was, one time after Ishtui launched a failed escape attempt, Sinwar beat Ishtui for 4 hours straight until Ishtui was unconscious. He then blindfolded Ishtui and threw him in a hole in the ground. Mohammed told Ishtui that this was his grave that he had prepared for him and that he should get used to it because he'd be spending the rest of eternity in it soon enough. Ishtui would later state the beatings he got on that day would cause his urine to permanently change color. But like I said before, Ishtui's family was like Hamas royalty, so his sister Samia was allowed to come and visit him in the tunnels. When Samia saw her brother looking absolutely destroyed from the beatings, she asked a guard if he had been tortured, And of course, the guard denied that any torture had taken place.
Can you do the Stephen Hawking's pose, the same one you did in Ethan Klein's lawsuit video? My best Stephen Hawking's pose? Rest in peace, Reckful? What is this? What? Jesus. There's more, right? Where's the full Stephen Hawking? There's like a clip of it on LSF or my subreddit or something. Fuck this earth.
When she
What are you guys talking about? You've been gnomed? Yeah, I got gnomed. Nice posture. Okay. I actually have to pee again because my
Base.
spoke with her brother, he just lifted up his palm, showing the word Mazlum written on it, meaning unjustly wronged, essentially confirming that he had been tortured. He also said that if he would be murdered, he would leave a sign to prove it. Now, this whole time, Ishtui's mother had been meeting with Hamas supreme leader and multi-billionaire Ismail Haniyeh. And by the way, fun little fact about Haniyeh, he actually has multiple nephews in the Israeli army. Talk about awkward family reunions. Anyway, in the meetings, Haniyeh was dismissive that Ishtui was in danger and claimed that Sinwar would eventually let him go free. But when Ishtui's sister went to visit Mahmoud for the final time, she could see...
The main problem with Iran and enrichment is the auto-launch theory, which is the idea that as soon as Iran gets a nuclear weapon, they will immediately use it on Israel. If you think about the threat of World War III, American interference in Ukraine, Iran is the same aggression but without nuclear weapons. I don't think Iran would use the nuclear weapon. I don't know if anybody actually believes that. I don't even think even Israel thinks that. The issue is once they get a nuclear weapon, it solidifies that regime. It makes regime change incredibly hard. It dramatically discourages attacks directly on Iran. And it gives them a whole bunch more legitimacy in the region that is going to be incredibly difficult for anybody to contest. I think those are the main fears. I think that's the main fear with Iran having a nuclear weapon.
see that he was at his breaking point. It was during this meeting that he managed to sneak her a note which detailed all the torture that he had been subjected to by Sinwar and his men. Later that day, his sister walked into Haniyeh's house. Like usual, Haniyeh greeted her cheerfully and asked what he could do for her. And she basically said, "Cut the crap, Haniyeh," and showed him the documents that claimed that Ishtu...
We definitely think they would bomb us. Why wouldn't they? Why would they? That would be suicidal. Isn't the issue that Iran would supply nukes to terrorists? I don't know how likely or possible that is, or how that would work. It would have to be some platform. They would have to be provided weapons that they could launch it from. Although maybe Hezbollah already has that. I don't know what transporting nuclear weapons is like in terms of how visible that is to people. I'm not sure. So why do you support the Israeli strikes? It seems like we're on the same page on everything except this part. Because I don't think that Iran should enjoy blanket immunity from ever being attacked. I think Iran is a terrible nation that is conducting way, way, way too much foreign interference, basically with impunity, and nobody in the international community does anything about it or gives a fuck. I think that they represent an immense threat to U.S. and global interests of the region, and anything that strengthens or solidifies the grip that country has on the region and the ability for them to meddle in foreign affairs across that region, I think is all bad. I think all of those things are bad. So I think preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, I think is a worthwhile reason to attack them or stop them from doing so. How do you know that regime change will lead to a better leader? I don't know if regime change would lead to a better leader. I don't think regime change is the best idea ever. I think regime change could theoretically introduce a ton of instability in the region. I'm not necessarily a big fan of regime change. I just don't think they should have a nuclear weapon.
He was being tortured by Hamas men. Haniyeh instantly froze and his face went white. The details of the torture weren't supposed to have gotten out. Haniyeh abruptly ended the meeting and excused himself. That night, the Ishtui family got a knock at the door. Samia opened it and found herself face to face with Sinwar, who had a gun pointed at her. Sinwar walked into the house, still pointing the gun, and said to her that she should stop poking around or she would end up like her brother. Then he walked out into the night.
Okay, so we just roll the dice then. That is what you were saying. That's not an intelligent question. Think about what I'm saying. Think about what you're saying and then try again. Do you think mutually assured destruction means the same thing to a jihadist state? I don't analyze the region like Sam Harris does. I've never found a reason to, and I've never found that to be a good predictor or explainer for any of the actions, so I don't view it as Islam, Muslim, LOL, here's this. So.
But the Ishtui family wouldn't be threatened. They demanded another meeting with
Destiny, stupid take. Instead of engaging in diplomacy, let's do war. I have no problem engaging with diplomacy. That's why I supported the JCPOA. That's one of my big criticisms about Donald Trump. It's one of my big criticisms about Netanyahu. I think diplomacy should always be the first stop. But I mean, it seems like diplomacy is not possible with current U.S. leadership. And if Iran wants to take advantage of that by building a nuclear weapon, that's Iran's prerogative. I don't even necessarily blame them for doing it. But of course, we should do everything to stop them from doing it. And if we don't have the ability to negotiate diplomatically, then we negotiate with bombs. Why is Israel attacking now and not when the IAEA report came out? Surely it has nothing to do with the Israeli parliament holding a vote to dissolve the government a week ago and Netanyahu's position weakening. I mean, that maybe that could be influencing Netanyahu's ideas. I don't know how long in advance these strikes were planned. It sounds like, based on the extensive bombings and the extensive information and intelligence they had in Iran, it sounds like this has been in the works for quite a while. So I don't think that this was just a instantaneous, flip of the switch thing. It also could have been that I think the U.S. said, didn't they have a 60-day negotiation going on with Iran, and they did these bombings when the negotiations ended? So.
But the Ishtui family wouldn't be threatened. They demanded another meeting with Hania, but Hania refused to meet with them. They then organized a protest outside of Hania's house, but it was brutally dispersed by Hamas police. When that didn't work, they had a different idea. They contacted Khalid Mashal, the multi-billionaire former leader of Hamas who now resided in Syria. Now, Mashal actually has an absolutely insane life story that involves the Mossad essentially killing him with a deadly dose of super fentanyl shot out of a Spider-Man web shooter, and after that, reviving him from the dead. If you want me to make a video explaining the absolute insanity that was the Mashal job, let me know in the comments. Anyway, Mashal was seen as much more of a pragmatist compared to other Hamas leaders, and he didn't like Sinwar that much. Because of that, the Ishtui family thought that he might be a useful ally in their fight to free Mahmoud. They spoke with Mashal, and he told them that he was confident he would be able to free Mahmoud. In parallel to that, Mahmoud's mother released a tearful video in which she begged Hamas military commander Daif to release her son. She said that in the past she had saved Daif's life and now asked him to pay her back. She revealed that she was dying of cancer and begged Daif to let her see her son one more time before she died. But it was too late. That night, Sinwar came to Ishtui and told him that if he confessed, he would only get a few years in jail. Ishtui, who was completely broken and couldn't take any more torture,
Would you consider these questions you're getting now Israeli derangement syndrome? Everybody's deranged about the Middle East. People have stupid thoughts about all of it. People that are obsessed with Islam and jihads, and people who are obsessed with Israel and Jewish conspiracy, and people who are obsessed with Western shit is all dumb.
finally confessed. But Sinwar had
Can you speak more to your difference in analysis from Sam Harris? He seems keen on speaking to the unique nature of Muslim fundamentalism. Yeah, Sam Harris is super, in my opinion, brain broken on the Muslim stuff. But it just, you can't explain everything you can't explain the dynamics of the Middle East by just obsessing over Islam. Iran stands in opposition to a ton of other Muslim majority nations. I don't think Iraq is as friendly with, I don't think Iraq is as friendly anymore with Iran. Like, it's just, you have to have a better framing than just LOL religion.
Sinwar came to Ishtui and told him that if he confessed, he would only get a few years in jail. Ishtui, who was completely broken and couldn't take any more torture, finally confessed. But Sinwar had lied, because the moment he confessed, Sinwar did a quick and secret sham trial and officially condemned him to death for homosexuality. Ishtui was executed with 3 gunshots to the chest.
Damn.
His body was returned to his family, and they were told that Ishtui had died during a hunger strike. His family didn't really buy that, considering, the 3 holes in his chest. And sure enough, upon further examination, they found that he had carved the word Mazlum into his leg, his way of saying that he had been innocent. Now, in every English source, this is where the story chief, Mohammed Daif,
Sorry. Do you not think it is in Iran's interest to develop nukes? Why does every analysis always start from Israel's point of view and not Iran? Didn't I literally just say, I understand why Iran? I thought I just said that literally earlier. Yeah, it is in Iran's interest to develop nukes, for sure. It's also in Israel's interest and our interest to stop them. Yes.
It goes way deeper than I realized. Because remember, upon further examination, they found that he had carved the word Mazlum into his leg, his way of saying that he had been innocent. Now, in every English source, this is where the story ends.
At Destiny, those are the results of the Shia-Sunni divide. Yes, I know, every white guy in the West loves to talk about this. But you are still framing Iran nuking Israel as suicidal and therefore unlikely, even though October 7th was just as suicidal, but still happened. October 7th wasn't necessarily suicidal. Remember, they took hostages, and they took hostages for a reason, probably because Hamas thought they would have some kind of stronger negotiating position or something, I guess. Also, October 7th wasn't done directly by Iran. It was done through a proxy. People that are operating through proxies, in my opinion, definitionally, are not suicidal. ISIS wasn't using proxies. ISIS was taking credit for things and attacks directly. Same thing with Al-Qaeda. They're not like, oh, we have to attack through proxies so that we can maintain some plausible deniability like Iran does. Iran doing that, in my opinion, demonstrates some level of rational self-interest, some kind of non-suicidal mentality. Otherwise, they would just do it themselves.
But by doing some digging on some really sus Arabic websites that probably gave me viruses, I realized that this story goes way deeper than I realized. Because remember, Mahmoud was a popular commander in Hamas, and the Ishtuis were a very powerful Hamas family, so Sinwar killing him got quite a few people angry. So in the days following the death of Ishtui, a new group made its first appearance in Gaza. A group that styled itself the Free Qassemite Brigades, or the FQB, essentially broke off from Hamas. They released a statement where they strongly condemned the killing of Ishtui and demanded that Sinwar get handed over to them for judgment. But most interestingly, the FQB declared allegiance to Khalid Mashal. And this is where things finally started to make sense to me. You remember when Mashal said that he would help free Ishtui and then proceed to do absolutely nothing? Well, Mashal never wanted to free Ishtui. He wanted Ishtui to die and become a martyr and then use his death to essentially launch a soft coup against the rising power of Sinwar. It was something unprecedented in the history of Hamas. But here is the weirdest part. Not long after this, the FQB disappears completely from the historical record. So my guess as to what happened would be that the Free Qassemite revolt was swiftly crushed by Sinwar. Anyway, Ishtui's story of torture and execution isn't actually out of the ordinary for Hamas. Ishtui was just the most famous example of it. And Palestine still remains one of the worst places to be gay in the world. Well, you might be saying, of course Gaza is going to be bad, but what about the West Bank, where Hamas isn't in charge? Well then, let me tell you about Ahmed Abu Mukhia. Ahmed was a gay Palestinian from the West Bank town of Hebron. He fled from his hometown out of fear and got asylum in Israel, where he lived his life. After many years, he decided to return to his hometown. When he got there, the villagers actually befriended him. Oh wait, did I say befriended? I meant beheaded. And it was posted on social media and everything. Anyway, I think the moral of Ishtui's story is the same as the moral of Lincoln's story from my last video. No matter how much you stick up to these authoritarians, they're still going to hate you at the end of the day.
Okay. I don't know what the point of this was, but we watched it. Here we go.
Because I don't know, like, it's gonna sound crazy, but people can back me up. This is Destiny's doing. I have long-standing beef with the psychotic Destiny community, and that's why they involved me in this shit. It's a fucking psyop. It's a fucking psyop, I'm telling you. I'm not fucking stupid.
For all your analyzing and critical thinking about the world, you really downplay the role and significance of religion, and I sincerely don't understand why. So, the way that this works is if you have an example of a thing that I can't explain with my current lens, or if there's something I'm missing, then you can point it out. But when you just say over and over again, oh, will you please just say it's because of fundamentalist Islam? Please, please blame the Muslim, please! I'm just deeply unconvinced, and I don't care. And I just super don't give a fuck, okay? I just super don't care. There are definitely religious undertones, of course, for a lot of the Israel-Palestine stuff. Absolutely. And there are some groups, in my opinion, I feel like Bin Laden had a decent religious fundamentalist inspiration, and I feel like ISIS was heavily Muslim fundamentalist, Islamic fundamentalist driven. But I feel like a lot of it is just political jockeying and then like natural geopolitical back and forths. But if there's a thing, then bring it up. But if you just like cry over and over again that I'm not blaming the Muslims enough, then there's just nothing for me to respond to. I'm sorry.
I may act like it, but I'm a very smart woman. And very good looking. Just wait until I lose a little bit of weight.
Oh, wow.
They literally flew suicide planes into the Twin Towers because of religion, LOL. Like, I don't want to go full Hasan here, but if your analysis of 9/11 was that 9/11 was done only because of religion, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're so far away. I don't even know why you watch me. I feel like there are so many other people that you could be watching. I don't know why you would watch my stream.
Fartatron
And
just
get
subscribed.
injected.
Seems
Don't.
pretty sus that Ethan only targeted women with his lawsuits.
Right. No, and like,
Here is a religion-associated question. Why does Iran care to invest in destruction of Israel? What's our non-religious beef with that country? I don't know 100%. I can't answer. That's why we started on the history of Iran. Hopefully it's simpler and quicker than the history of Israel, but I need to catch up. But I imagine a lot of it probably goes back to the attempted, the stuff in 79? Fuck. What was the one where we tried to fight against Iran because they were trying to expropriate BP and their oil shit. But I imagine a lot of it has to do with the Iranian Revolution. But I don't remember, I don't know all the key events and everything. I don't have an answer. I don't have a good answer for it. Also, a good bit of it is geopolitical posturing. Iran wants to see itself as the regional power in the Middle East, but Israel kind of fucks that up. Well, maybe. Oh, the 53 coup, maybe. Wait, I have something else open. I don't think the claim is religion is the sole or primary motivating factor for these geopolitics, but it certainly plays a significant role. I just get the sense you avoid factoring it in. I mean, I think it's an undertone. I don't think it plays a significant role. Like if there were these countries, you could flip them all to Christians. I don't think they would all of a sudden be okay, or they would significantly change up in all of their like political dispositions. Everybody has, but you know. What is this? Okay.
Well, if Donald Trump gets dementia, how will we know? Donald Trump's mental decline, which is more and more obvious, started from such a low level of mental processing power that it's hard to track his decline. It's from low to lower. Well, if Donald Trump...
It reminds me of a line that I hear it less now, but I used to see it a lot, which is, it's not my job to educate you. Mm-hmm. And I always thought about that line because on one level, I understood it. I mean, it's probably not your job to educate anyone. And then if you're in politics, if what you're trying to do is political change, I always found that line to be almost anti-political.
Yeah.
Right? That if what you want to do is change a law, change a society, change a heart, and you're the one who wants to do it, well, then whose job is it? And who are you expecting to do it?
It's an understandable frustration, but it's the only way forward. And look, I don't believe that every person from an underrepresented or an unrepresented community needs to always bear the brunt and burden of public education, right? Like, I don't believe that every LGBTQ person has to be out and sharing their story and doing all of that hard work. But for the folks who are willing to do it, we need to let them. And one of the problems we've had is that we've gone from, it's not—
If they were Christians, why would they have the same historical beef with Israel? The beef with Israel is not a historical or religious beef. Maybe religion influences it a bit. The beef with Israel was the fact that a whole bunch of Europeans were coming into an area where a massive empire before had been completely and utterly obliterated, and then it felt like they were a bunch of Europeans coming in and basically stealing a huge tract of land. Now, again, religious stuff influenced it quite a bit, but they could have been all Christians there, and they probably would have been equally ass-pained that a whole group of people were coming in. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's an example in after World War I. Wasn't there a big country that dissolved? It wasn't Muslim. I think they were Christians, and then they became a huge player in World War II, I think. Fuck, who am I thinking of? What was this country? They did the Holocaust.
My job as an individual person who's just trying to make it through the day to educate everyone to no one from that community should educate. And frankly, no, we should just stop having this conversation, because the fact that we are having this conversation at all is hurtful and oppressive. And maybe it is hurtful, but you can't foster social change if you don't have a conversation. You can't change people if you exclude them. And I will just say, you can't have absolutism on the left or the right without authoritarianism. Right? The fact that we have real disagreements, the fact that we have difficult conversations, the fact that we have painful conversations is not a bug of democracy. It's a feature of democracy. And yes, that is hard. And
true, but Muslims are especially ass-paying about Jews. Read the Quran, please, said somebody who's never read any part of the Quran in their entire life every single time. It's the same thing. People are like, you need to study Islam. Who can't even tell you what like the Ummah is or whatever. They don't even know any of the basic parts, the most fundamental basic parts. Couldn't tell you the years that Muhammad was even alive. Okay, couldn't tell you the most fundamental basic parts of Islam. Always like, you need to study Islam. And by study Islam, they mean watch some podcast with some white dude who goes off and paints all 2 billion Muslims on the planet with the same fucking broad brush, but could never explain to you why are there massive differences between the way that, say, Saudi Arabia conducts itself versus, say, the fucking Taliban. Or, why do some Muslims fight each other in certain countries where, they... Okay. I don't care. Listen, there's other places you can go for religious analysis of that, if that's what you want, okay? I factor it in when I think it's appropriate. I think largely it's nowhere near as big a deal as other people make it out to be. But you can think I'm wrong. And if you think I'm wrong, you're welcome to think that.
And difficult, but again, how can we expect that the process of overcoming marginalization is going to be fair? And I think the discourse has taken this understandable critique of society and the way we operate and the burdens we place on marginalized people. And we've somehow said, well, the one place that we have control over whether we allow for that marginalization is in the strategies we use to overcome it. We're not going to engage in that because it's sort of self-oppression. And I think that is such a self-defeating and counterproductive approach.
Wow. Predictive history tries to predict the whole war. Wait, what? Never heard of this channel before. Oh, U.S.-Iran war incoming. Uh-oh.
Hi, YouTube. This
Hi.
is Professor Jiang again. I am in Toronto. I'm still trying to recover from the jet lag and the time difference. As everyone knows, it seems this war in the Middle East is blowing up. And it seems that even though the United States has yet to declare war on Iran, it will probably happen in the next couple of days with the United States bombing Iran. Today, I'm going to share with you my impressions, my analysis of what's happening in the Middle East. And I hope that this discussion will be clarifying and illuminating for many of you. So it's very clear what the U.S. intention is. Because we've seen what the United States has done to Iraq, Libya, and Syria. They call it regime change, but it's really the destruction of the society, the destruction of the capacity as a people to be a nation, to work collectively. And then
Okay, I'm good on this. Russian streamer arrested after earlier disrespecting the Russian flag featuring Putin. Wait, what? How do I know these are police and not just like a random, like, robber or whatever?
Old unrefrigerated pie.
Ты че, потлатый, охуел? Я с документами и с коллегами жду тебя около столичной 6. Будем извиняться еще раз и подписывать документы, что ты ничего против не имеешь. Ну а потом как пойдет.
Wow. GoFundMe comments are a good meme. If you're sincerely donating to Denims, thinking that it's going to go to Ethan, you're fucking retarded. Like, she could just pocket the money, or the lawsuit could get dismissed for one reason or another, and then you've just given money to them. I can't tell if people are sincerely doing that or not, but something I find interesting is how leftists didn't really care about that tenant media stuff for more than a day, but never shut up about AIPAC. Really makes you think. Leftists didn't care about the tenant media stuff because they also think that Russiagate was a distraction, and they don't want to say mean things about Russia either. Russia is basically just enjoys a lot of media immunity right now, and then center-left people online, or center-left people in the mainstream media won't say anything about it because they were also brain broken on the Trump derangement syndrome, Russiagate stuff as well, so... Alvius, who's that? Did you see Lycan confirm that he used AI for those cases he cited? Why would he confirm it? I don't understand how people are so shameless. Why would you just lie about it?
Finally this morning, the outcome is not always good when a wild animal...
What? Wait, where's the one guy? I lost my volume bar again. What do I have to change? Why does this keep happening to me?
...injured or an illegal pet confiscated. But thanks to a group of Gen Zers and their unique social media stream, many of these animals...
At Destiny, I like how you learned that Ted Cruz blindly supports Israel because of the Bible, but religion isn't that big of a deal. Can you admit it at least tended... if you think that Ted Cruz supports Israel because of the Bible, because he said that, again, we're communicating on like different levels. Like, I'm not here... There are some... don't watch my channel. I don't know why you watch my channel. If you're here to listen to the words that a politician says, and your analysis is he said that thing, so he must mean that thing directly, rather than trying to understand when people do politics, why do they say the things that they say? What are they signaling? What do they mean? Like, it's such an unbelievably absurd and stupid way of understanding anything. In that case, I guess Trump's favorite book really is the Bible, and he reads it every single night because he said that, right? Like, it's just stupid. Like, I don't believe that any Christian, well, hold on. Actually, maybe for evangelicals, it might be different. The fact that you even say it is kind of crazy. I can't speak to evangelical people, but my belief on the Israel stuff, I would have to see when evangelicalism, is that the name of it, like got popular in the US. Because I think that the support for Israel, I think Israel had a good story. I think boomers and older people support it, especially because of the Cold War era stuff and everything. And Israel fighting all the Arab nations and our latent Islamophobia and all that, especially after 9/11. I think that that's why people supported Israel. The idea that they needed the Bible to tell them, I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Have found a new home. CBS's Karen Hua has the story from Austin, Texas.
So this is our marmoset enclosure. Oh, there he is. At 26, Maya Higa is the Gen Z.
I am Maya Higa. You are Maya.
Jane Goodall. From injured birds to abused animals to...
Wait. Relaunch.
Finally this morning, the outcome is... But thanks to a group of new home. CBS's Karen Hua has the story from Austin, Texas.
So this is our marmoset enclosure. Oh, there he is. At 26.
You consistently overestimate how logical folks are. I'm not overestimating how logical folks are. You're overestimating it by assuming that, one, they even fucking read the Bible, and that, two, they're basing their beliefs on things they read in the Bible. It's groupthink. It depends on the group that they're in. It depends on where the culture is headed. I know you have family that blindly supports Israel. Yes, my mom and dad do. But if Donald Trump changed on that, my parents would be the #1 Israel haters in the fucking world because they're completely lost to the Trump cult.
Maya Higa is the Gen Z Jane.
Yeah. Now that Mike Huckabee guy, if you were to tell me I think that Mike Huckabee is really religiously driven, I would believe you for Mike Huckabee. That guy's made a lot of crazy religious statements in the past, and his text to Donald Trump was fucking unhinged and crazy. I would believe the Mike Huckabee stuff.
He is. At 26, Maya Higa is the Gen Z Jane Goodall. From injured birds to abused animals to confiscated illegal pets, she's rescued hundreds of critters from around the country. At her nonprofit, Alvea Sanctuary outside Austin, Texas, she teaches visitors about these unique animals. But this isn't a public zoo. You can only visit online.
I don't know if we've ever seen before, is the animal sanctuary all virtual and all funded from donors from around the world.
He goes...
Do you think any of those streamers make enough money independently to afford the lawsuit? Probably not. My guess is, especially for like a technical... lawsuit like this is probably like a big 6-figure, maybe more lawsuit would be my guess.
Streams live on Twitch, the social media platform most commonly used for video games.
We call it hiding the broccoli here.
Look who it is! Our first guest! Lessons on conservation, education on exploitive trades, hidden inside fun demonstrations.
They can't live in the wild. Their options are either, unfortunately, be euthanized or stay here and teach people.
With 24/7 cameras in every enclosure, Alveus gets about 30 million online visitors a year, likely more than if they were open to the public.
You can watch them eat, you can watch them interact with their enrichment and toys and stuff.
Now, the sanctuary has grown to 11 staff, some who specialize in nutrition, others who edit videos and monitor Twitch. It's what advocacy looks like in the digital age.
Getting young people involved in that is so important, and it's the only way that our natural world stands a chance.
So for now,
Do you think Hasan will be pressured into helping with the lawsuits? No, Hasan doesn't help anybody around him. Unless there's clout to be gained, Hasan won't do anything. That's why he doesn't even interact with his fucking orbiters. Hasan is only like upwards focused.
Is a special sanctuary for friends like Siren here, but they're hoping to double in size in the near future. I'm Karen Hua, CBS News, Austin, Texas.
Wow. Cute. Animals. Most people aren't like you, constantly hiding their meaning behind shit. Ted Cruz is not most people. I agree with you, my dude. Ted Cruz is a fucking senator. This is not most people. Ted Cruz supports Israel primarily because he thinks that's what good Christians are supposed to do. Okay, we just fundamentally disagree. So good luck. I don't know what to say.